Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen, come on in. I'm excited. We got one more video set out for you guys for 2023. We got to end on a big one. We're going to be ranking all of the characters and ships that were released in 2023. How good was the year? Well, I'm going to tell you, it was pretty darn good, just like it was good. Amazing. Dare I say, it was great to be in the Empire today with all you guys. Let me just thank you real quick before we get into it, because we have 29 characters and ships to rank. So we're going to try to challenge them to give 30 seconds per character and ship. But before we do so, Happy New Year to all of you guys. However much time you spent around here, whether it's a second, a minute, hours, days, I appreciate all the time you spend here, because, you know, time is our most limited asset, and the fact that you guys spend some of that with me really means so much. From the bottom of my heart to you and your friends, family, Happy New Year. Let's get into the action. We like to do this every single year where we kind of sit back, look at all the characters that came out, all the ships. How does it fit in the grand scheme of galaxies? How good were they in totality? And as I said, there were 29 new characters, new ships that came to Galaxy of Heroes. And I already recorded this video once and it was 2 hours long. So I'm going to try to challenge myself 30 seconds per character and ship. Let's get into it. The first one that we had for 2023 was a conquest unit, and that is the Scythe. Let's just throw it on the board real quick. The Scythe was our first conquest unit of the year, and in 2022, we had a lot of Inquisitor-related things. You know, pretty mediocre until Reva came around, as we're going to talk about. This Scythe in and of itself, I actually thought it was amazing. When it first came out, it was great. Then they kind of nerfed it a few times, and it took away the thunder that I loved out of it. But in hindsight, now that the game has kind of slowed down, they kind of stopped messing around with this ship. The Scythe, I feel like, is a solid, good option. I don't use it all the time, but when I do, it's primarily for the Chimera taking down Leviathan. Otherwise, I'm not really utilizing the Scythe as much. I feel like there's a lot of other more important ships that came out this year, but I feel like that's a good place for us to start in. Next up on the list, we had our first character of 2023, and that is Zorii Bliss. Oh my gosh. Let's just say it took a while for me to convince people to get on the Zorii pain train. Here's the thing. When you ask people, what's your favorite characters, your favorite factions, you know, whatever, in Star Wars, rarely people say Resistance, and rarely people say Zorii. It's not the most exciting character that has come out of Star Wars. But when we finally look at the grand scheme of the year and how this character played out, she was a massive powerhouse for the Resistance. Amazing at low stars. I really hope people are finally fully on board with her. I feel like people didn't really catch on and believe me until, you know, roughly around like mid-year of 2023. But Zorii Bliss, she was a pain on defense to deal with. She's probably one of the best non-legendary teams in the game, period. End of stop. Great in territories, grand arena, many other things. Once they start rolling, it's game over. There's not a lot of great counters for Zorii out there. So easily an amazing character. The debate's going to be this year. I'm going to spoil it. Who is the best marquee character 2023? I think it's either Zorii, Captain Rex. I'll let you guys vote down below. And by the way, voting, I'm going to leave a link down below. If you want to rank all this stuff too, be my guest. I'd love to see it. Or you can just comment down below. Next up, we have TIE Defender. Kind of an oddball. But let me just spoil it this way. TIE Defender, the ship for Ida Versio, felt more like the Conquest ship, more so than the Scythe. With Ida Versio's introduction of the TIE Defender, the grand scheme of what we're seeing here is that the TIE Defender just elevated the Chimera to an absurd level. Remember, they were pitching the TIE Defender as the ship for the Executrix, not the Chimera. So glad the developers are wrong, and the Chimera is the primary home for the Defender. Not to say you can't use it with the Executrix. I've done it many times. For example, Executrix versus Profundity. But overall, whatever the case may be, Executrix, Leviathan, or the Chimera, what we're seeing at the Defender, it's elevated the Empire lab to insane degrees. With the high dodge rate, the high durability, the high amounts of turn meter it grants, the Defender can beat the Leviathan, it can beat Profundity, and it can beat an Executor. So let's make sure we get it out of here before we freak you guys out easily. An amazing ship. And I'm just going to spoil another thing. We have an extra category you're not seeing, so we might need to talk about Defender later on. So stay tuned to the end when we get to our bonus category that we have. Next up on the list, we started moving into our crate era of Galaxy of Heroes with the introduction of Tusken Chieftain and the Tusken Warrior, the Crate Dragon raid. It kind of felt like it came and went pretty quickly, but it was an important part of Galaxy of Heroes, the reintroduction of the raids, which I'm happy to see. They brought raids back. Everyone could play them. I just wish there was special characters, like raid characters associated as a reward, and they didn't just last like a few months. I digress. Ignoring the raids, what the Tuskens were bringing, we saw this kind of as one the theme, the pillars of 2023. Bringing in teams that don't need to rely on speed or turn meter to win. The Tuskens, outside of Kenobi being the king of anti-turn meter, the Tuskens, I would say, are the second most anti-turn meter team in Galaxy of Heroes. period. Being able to just completely halt the enemy in their steps. When they get so much turn meter, you get so much momentum, it's game over. Now, I would say the Tusken Chieftain is the more important unit for the Tuskens. It enabled the Tuskens to actually do what they gotta do. I don't know if the Tuskens are as good as Zori and some of the other stuff we're gonna have for the rest of the year. But as we look throughout the whole entire year, I think the Tusken Chieftain is a solid, good character. It brought Tuskens from a nothing to something faction. It's gonna be great when turn meter's a thing. Like, for example, as we're gonna talk about Captain Rex, we see that the Tuskens are an amazing Captain Rex counter. We're gonna leave Tusken Warrior in the okay category. I wouldn't say it's necessary, like the Tusken Chieftain, but nonetheless, still a very important unit to make sure you have a full, solid team of Tusken out there that buff the spells, the big damage. I think this is a fair assessment. Tusken Chieftain's very good, and the Warrior's still good, but I think it's more of the okay section. It wasn't as like transformative as the Chieftain was. But guess what? Another theme of this year was a lot of unaligned force users, a lot of things investigating the Jedi arc, the Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, and we started dipping our toes in the Jedi Fallen Order characters, eventually building up the Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, with the first one being Cal Kestis himself, or we like to call him Baby Cal. Now, what Cal was bringing was a big boost to the unaligned force users. Now, the developers are like trying to say, no, he's not going to be great with Rey. Let me spoil it for you. Now that almost a whole year has gone by with Cal, this guy is amazing with Rey. I know he's got a great home with Seer Junda, and that is totally the truth. I'm happy this guy's an easy farm on Cantina. If you have a Rey, you need this guy. He amplifies the health so much, the durability of your Rey team. And unaligned force users in general, I've seen him be used, for example, with Supreme Leader Kylo Ren's as well. But obviously, Seer Junda is going to be the main ticket. We're going to utilize him, and he's got a solid Territory Omicron that enables Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum's Omicron to work on a full team with Seer Junda. So I would say overall, Cal is going to be a solid, good character. He might not be a damage dealer, but he's all about surviving. Almost like that's what his whole story is all about. So we're going to throw Cal in the good category. It's going to be a bigger conversation piece once we start talking about Seer, Malicos, all that fun jazz. But we had a little bit of a disruption during our Cal Kestis grind. We had Reva finally get unlocked in Galaxy. Now, technically, Reva was released in 2022 in game, but no one could unlock her until 2023. So she was our 7th character of the year. What's the short story for Reva? Here's the short story. Reva is as close as you can get to a Galactic Legend without being called a Galactic Legend. Before we even got into Grand Arena, we saw Reva was taking down pretty much every single Galactic Legend, with maybe the exception of Rey. Rey was kind of the only Galactic Legend that was kind of giving her a hard time. How much more do you want? This wasn't a conquest character. It was a territory battle, which, to be fair, it takes a lot of effort to get through that part of territories, get to Tatooine, do all the stuff associated with her. I don't know what else more there is to say. She is great. She took the worst parts of 2022 and made it some of the best stuff. The Grand Inquisitor was not very good, if you remember, in 2022, but Reva is absolutely amazing. Transformed the Inquisitors in their entirety to the point where now they're basically another Galactic Legend. So when you and your guild finally unlock her, I want you to remember, it is a big deal. Even down the road, assuming not much has changed to the rest of the Galactic Legend teams out there, she is doing amazingly well. And she's got aspects of her that could also work up against, possibly Leia. All right, enough talking about that. Let's get to our next one. We're back on the Jedi Knight Cal Kestis grind, where we are going to be talking about Seer Junda. So Seer Junda, what we're getting out of this girl here is we're finally starting to solidify the unaligned force user identity. And what we're really seeing overall is with the unaligned force users, they are kind of like Tuskens, where they don't need to be fast. They just gotta be, a little bit slow to let the enemy team get a bunch of turns. Then the Seer Junda team ramps up. And if you remember, before we got the Omicron turned down inside of Grand Arena, Seer Junda were like, I think she's gonna be okay. She doesn't look amazing inside of the Squad Arena testing, which it's hard to get the full picture of Squad Arena nowadays. The second we get in Grand Arena, before we had all the other fun toys with unaligned force users, it was very evident this is gonna be a staple defensive team. And nice in Territory Wars, especially because of the Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum being enabled by the Cal Omicron. And it's going to get even better because there's one more unaligned force user that's very important for this team. So overall, I would say Seer Junda, it's going to be a staple team for the long haul. I feel like in Galaxy Heroes, I feel like it's going to be a solid, amazing character. It's going to be arguable who the best requirement is. I feel though, Seer Junda, when I just look at the game, it's probably the best requirement out of Jedi Knight Cal. Maybe not the most exciting, but enabled a whole entire powerful team for Grand Arena, Territory Wars, as well as the territory battles. Seer Junda, amazing team. All right, I know I've been trying to keep myself to 30 seconds per character, so we're not here for several hours. We got to talk about Admiral Trench. Oh, I'm going to take a little bit longer with him. Let me start off with this. Admiral Trench. I first want to say he's not useless, but when we're talking about conquest characters, he is definitely bottom of the barrel. I'm going to leave you some hope after we rank him, but you can't convince me that he is better than Zori, better than Seer, better than Tusken Chieftain, better than Cal. He's just not. If he was a marquee character, I'd have a little bit different of a tune. Yes, he made Separatists a little bit better, but in Grand Arena, he's not great on defense. You know, I don't really feel comfortable using him on offense for most things. In territories, he's okay, but from a top shelf perspective, I'm not really seeing him being used much, except for maybe on defense. But again, there's a lot of counters to Admiral Trench. I'm gonna leave you guys with some hope. I think 2024, we're going to see Trench be a lot more powerful. It just seemed a bit odd adding Trench. When there was different beats this year, Trench was out of nowhere. 2024, like the Inquisitors of 2022, which I was not crazy about, I think he could maybe have a Grand Inquisitor type of comeback. But for now, I would just recommend, you have to understand my perspective. When I have billions and trillions and quadrillions of people watching, I want to make sure I'm giving them advice I feel comfortable with limited chirotechs, limited crystals, limited resources. I don't feel like Trench is a good investment, but wait till 2024, that might change. For now, I think you can pass out on Trench. You're not going to notice any difference with or without him. All right, let's keep our train moving along. We have Marin next on our agenda here. Marin brought the Night Sisters back into the fold. Night Sisters, you know, they weren't bad. They just lost their edge and they were kind of being, you know, cannibalized and broken apart, whether maybe put a Sith Eternal, maybe put a Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. Night Sisters brought the girls back together. The band is back together, y'all. With the Night Sisters, the biggest thing is we're noticing as she helped us enable an opportunity to get through Jabba without needing a galactic legend. Kind of a big deal. I feel like I haven't really had the opportunity this year to really fully appreciate her because I've been using her so much for the piecemeal Jabba. But remember, she could beat Commander Luke Skywalker's and a variety of other teams. I don't know if she's maybe as great as Sarah Junda came out to be, but still a very solid character. And I'm going to admit, I'm kind of teetering between these two categories, good and amazing, but especially seeing the stuff we got coming on later on throughout the rest of this year. I'm going to put her in good for now. I feel comfortable there, but if you want to convince me that she's amazing, I'm not going to disagree with you. I feel better that she's here. I don't think she's as good as Zori, Sarah Junda, but she's still very good. I think that's going to probably be one of the more controversial pieces, but again, I could probably go either or, but I think that's a solid spot for her. Tarful, let's get Tarful up on the board here. So Tarful was our second to last requirement for Jedi and Cal Kestis. The good news about Jedi and Cal Kestis only, you only needed, gear 12 to get the guy. Tarful, is he artful? No, I'm just gonna jump to it. I think Tarful's okay. Finally gave the Wookiees an identity. They finally gave the Wookiees their tag. Basically, the main highlight is he has great defense in terms of the stat. I wouldn't say he's great on defense, but he's got great defensive stats, which enables Zalbar to potentially get a big explosive play. I've seen some cool stuff where maybe you can like break apart Commander Luke and turn the Wookiees into a Commander Luke team, but that doesn't really make much sense. Just use the Commander Luke team. The Datacrons helped them be decent on defense for a little bit, but that's Datacrons. It's temporary. Now we're not seeing Wookiees be on defense. I've seen Malik. I've actually soloed the Wookiees with Malik one time, so he's not the best. It gives the Wookiees something. It's a team. It's just okay. Not much to brag about. Not much to hype up about. This one, I'm a bit disappointed. Let's get Saw Gerrera on the board. Saw Gerrera is the last requirement for Jedi Cal Kestis. Stonewall Saw, as we like to call him, because they didn't even put his flinch animations in, so it looks like he's just waving off all the hits coming his way. I absolutely love the guy. The problem is I don't love him in terms of performance. I think they let us down here. Saw Gerrera was the biggest letdown, probably one of the lower points of the year, kind of in that area with Trench. You could use them. I've seen him be used with like Cara Dune, Kyle Katarn, kind of like a Mon Mothma alternative potentially. I feel like he's just one of the weaker parts of this year. I don't really use him that much. Maybe there's a couple Datacron things that worked in his favor. I'm actually not even going to move him out of the spot he's in. He's going to stay in Reluctant Farm. If it wasn't for Jedi Cal Kestis, I would say, you don't need this guy. Completely skip out him. But he is required, so he's kind of reluctant. I think you can just keep him at Gear 12 and move on with your life. Not worry too much about him. All right. Now, guess what, people? We have our Sith fleets that are coming in here. So let's get both the TIE Dagger and the Mark 6 Interceptor up on the board. We're going to put them in their spots in a second. We were starting to move into that long-awaited leaks with the Sith capital ship. There's a Sith capital ship coming. There's a Sith capital ship coming. We were under the impression it was going to be Nihilus, but no, it was the Leviathan. So as we built our way towards Leviathan, which apparently was going to execute profoundly, it's going to be the greatest thing of all time in fleets. We'll get the Leviathan when we get there. But when we look at the Mark 6 Interceptor and the TIE Dagger, they weren't really doing anything crazy until the Leviathan came out. I mean, the TIE Dagger you could have used with the, you know, the finalizer, you know, okay. But otherwise, I feel like the TIE Dagger is just an okay ship. You know, it's the best Leviathan lineup is always in motion. Like sometimes it's TIE Dagger, sometimes it's Sith Fighter, sometimes it's the Mark 6 Interceptor. It's just an okay ship. Let's go talk about the Mark 6 Interceptor a little bit. I'd say overall it's the more important unit for the Leviathan. It has the insta kill. The problem I have with it is that the Leviathan doesn't really use it well on defense. It calls it in the wrong time, too early, too late, or doesn't use the insta kill. It's kind of a bit funny how it works, but it's the B1 battle droid of ships. That's the one big thing about the Mark 6 Interceptor that's great. It's one of the more important units for the Leviathan. I feel like if the Leviathan wins, it's because you're having a hard time getting through all the swarms of the Mark 6 Interceptor. Overall, I think it's an okay ship. I think there's a lot other better ships that came out this year. Obviously important for Leviathan, but not the most important part of Leviathan. We got a little bit more Leviathan stuff moving on. Don't worry, we'll get back on the train here. Let's talk about Captain Rex. Oh man, so keep in mind, when Captain Rex was announced, there was no confirmation of Leia, but we had suspicion this is basically we're almost there. We're almost there for the final confirmation. But before that, we got Captain Rex, and man, I didn't have to convince you guys like I had with Zori. Zori took a lot of proving and convincing. Like, this character's great. I know you don't care about her, but she's great. Captain Rex, straight out the get-go, turned the Phoenix team into an instant hero-level team. Holy cow. I remember my first impressions. I had a 3-star Captain Rex. I haven't remodded my Phoenix since like 2017. I was just like, you know what? Go in there. Battle 1, full autoed a Commander Luke Skywalker team. This is one of the most important characters to come out this year, and I really do believe the ultimate vote's going to be Captain Rex Zori, best marquee character of 2023, being able to elevate the Phoenix to the level they are, and it's such a staple team to the game. It's nice that they're not even just usable, they're amazing, and also the opportunities afforded to clone lineups. I've seen them be used as shot clones. I've been seeing them being used as the 501st of Skywalker, the Captain Rex 501st lead. Very solid character. I wish I could talk more about him, but we've had plenty of opportunities to do so over the year. Amazing character. Let's not even debate that. It's amazing, plain and simple. Next up, we have the Fury class Interceptor. Okay. Out of all of the Leviathan requirements, this is definitely one of the most important ships. I'm just going to throw it in the good category. Yeah. Let's just put it this way. When it came out, we saw initially the potential that Leviathan had. We saw that the Fury class Interceptor made the Sith Bomber amazing. It really is a 2-for-1 special. It really is. It's when you get the Fury class Interceptor, your Sith Bomber is amazing. We saw the Chimera with the Fury class take on Profundity. So we saw the potential there. I think there are still better ships in general, but of course, this is probably the most important part to the Leviathan lineup. Once the Malgus is gone, it's kind of game over for Leviathan. But I think there's more important ships in the game that came out this year. You know, again, if you want to argue more, Fury class should be amazing, go for it. I want to disagree with you. I think it's kind of like a Scythe level ship overall. But let's get the Jedi and Cal Kestis. Jedi and Cal Kestis, we finally got them unlocked, and it issued in a new era for the Jedi, the end of Darth Malgus's reign in Grand Arena. It was a tough pill to swallow for people when I said, guys, I'm giving you the heads up, the Malgus defense era is coming to a close. The second Cal came in literally overnight, and Malgus went extinct. The insta kill solidified the deal. But beyond that, beyond just using leftover Jedi to take out Malgus, like, how much more do you want? Like, literally leftover Jedi, like using things like Eth Koth and like, I don't know, Jedi Guardian to beat Malgus. It doesn't get much better than that. The anti-fear, the insta-kill, seal the deal. Great with Jedi Master Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight Revan. And I don't think people are giving this enough credit. Jedi Knight Cal, let's just throw him in the amazing category right here. He makes a non-existent team in territory battles a thing. Like, if you have leftover characters and you have the Omicron on Cal lead, it's my first and only Omicron, one of the few Omicrons I would recommend for territory battles. He literally takes any of your leftovers, makes it into a team. So if you're in a guild that has Cal and you're trying to get maybe a couple extra combat mission wins, him with literally whatever the bottom of the barrel is will win. We've shown this time and time again. Love the guy in several aspects. I'm always using him. I'm always having a good time. The weakest part about him is I feel like he's kind of an idiot on defense and territories and Grand Arena. He doesn't know how to pull off his combos appropriately. But all right, so now we're at the point where we have the official confirmation. Leia Organa's coming. Captain Rex, we were told, was the first requirement, but then we started getting into the other ones. One of them being Nisa, bringing the Ewoks up and viability a bit more. I feel like overall Nisa's kind of the perfect middle of the run marquee of the year. She wasn't the best, She wasn't the worst. She made Ewoks useful. For me, though, I think she's just good. She's just good. She's not like amazing or anything like that. I actually feel like I might be a little bit generous here because I don't really use Ewoks so much. Even with Nisa, you only need so many teams for Grand Arena, Territory Wars, so they're not really my go-to, but they could be plenty of, you know, interesting stuff out there, you know, like Commander Luke's and stuff like that. You got to be careful. They could catch you off guard. This isn't like your mom and pop's Ewoks they had back in 2017 or whatever it was, 2018. I think she's just good. She's all right. You know, if you want to say she's okay, I think that's also acceptable. She's not amazing, but she's all right. All right. Speaking of all rights, oh gosh. All right, let's talk about Leviathan. Oh, jeez. I'm going to try to spend a little bit more time on this one. Let me just say this straight from the get-go. Leviathan is just, there's no way of cutting. I don't care if you're the biggest CG advocate of all time. You know, there's plenty of people that they like worship them. You know, it's fine. This is just technically the worst launch ever for a unit in Galaxy Heroes history. They overhyped it to a way too high of a degree. It also came out buggy. So much of the kit just wasn't working. Go back and watch the videos. It wasn't even that good. They had to buff it several times, fix it several times for it to finally work. So I want to put that out there. But after all is said and done, the bugs, fixes, and all that stuff, how does it sit? You know, I would be, I feel like I would just be lying if I didn't say it was amazing. But I want to caveat it. Technically, it is the best capital ship in the game. It full autos executors, full autos profundities now. They had to give it isolate and do all this stuff to make it as good as they said, but it's not as amazing like they were setting it out to be. It's probably maybe like a half, maybe a full step ahead of profundity executor. Let me just put it this way real quick. I have fought executors day one. I fought profundities day one. I have yet to have an issue fighting Leviathan. Even to this day, I think he's one of the easiest capital ships to beat. You know, Chimera, negotiators we're going to talk about. I've lost a lot of executor battles that determine my Grand Arena losses or wins, and same thing profundity. I've yet to lose a Grand Arena because of Leviathan. Plain and simple. It's an all right ship, but I don't know if it's justified in all of its Relic 9s. I think you're gonna get much better bang per buck with the executor, profundity, negotiator, or the Chimera. So anyways, I just want to leave it there. It is amazing, but I just want to say shame on CG for the really bad luck. It wasn't even working. Let's just put it that way. And they had to buff it several times. Scout Trooper, we're continuing our Leia Organa requirements. Scout Trooper was interesting. Let's just throw it on the board real quick here. Scout Trooper, we saw initially, we're starting to see like a picture of the Imperial remnants starting to become a thing. Moff Gideon lead, the OG Moff Gideon, not Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, was able to do more stuff than Veers. You know, Veers was kind of running into an issue with the Seer Junda lineup, running into an issue with the Tuskens. With Scout Trooper and Moff Gideon, we saw the Imperial remnants be useful. The problem is Imperial remnants take some Veers stuff, take some Iden stuff. Speaking of Iden, Scout Trooper is also a nice addition to the Iden line. Kind of slowed down the role of Wampa a little bit with the days associated with it. I would say overall Scout Trooper it's an okay part of the game. Also very solid with Dark Trooper Moff Gideon as time goes on. It's a pretty flexible unit. You know, it's not like game changing, but it's a nice addition. They technically nerfed Scout Trooper. Remember that. Scout Trooper had a much different kit when it came out, and they took away the cleanse. It only could work with Imperial remnants. So remember that. All right, we have freaking Drogon. Oh gosh. Our last requirement for Leia. This should have been Saw Gerrera. This is a nobody character, and this guy's so powerful. They basically made this marquee character feel like a Commander Tano, a Maul. Just throw him in the amazing category. Amazing with Galactic Legend Leia. Just throw Leia up there too. Do I need to explain that much? Amazing with Leia, but we saw right away it was going to be great with Mon Mothma. He was also great with Sana Starros. Commander Luke Skywalker. He hits hard, so many stuns, keen stratagem. I really think he should have been the Saw Gerrera, but I digress. Let's talk about Leia. Leia is the new Galactic Legend for 2023, in case you missed it. And there's no way of cutting it. Maybe not my favorite character in the game, because she's just a know-it-all. She does everything, but she is the best character that come out this year. And I would say the best Galactic Legend, period. Beating every Galactic Legend. Hands down, they undersold her. Unlike the Leviathan, where they oversold it, they undersold Leia. They said, oh, she's only going to be good for offense. No, she's literally one of the best defensive teams we've seen of all time. That's all I really got to say about it. I think they maybe learned too much from Leviathan by overhyping it. They undersold Leia. I think it's better to undersell something. We find it to be better than overhyping something, and it doesn't even meet the expectations by any stretch of the imagination. So, Tale of Two Tales, the Leia Leviathan, completely different stories. Malicos, wrapping up our Jedi series. We had Malicos, our second to last conquest character of 2023. I'm going to put it this way. I think I'm gonna say, let's say the polite way. I think the polite thing to say is that he is the top 3 conquest characters of all time, period. Up there with Maul, Commander Tano. I think there's an argument that could be made that he's better than Maul and Commander Tano. I'm seeing him be used in a variety of lineups. Rey, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, Lord Vader, Seer Junda, obviously beating a variety of galactic legends with Seer Junda. Being used in not just Grand Arena, where his Omicrons are designed, but also inside of Territory Wars as a top level team. So I think he has a lot more flexibility than Maul, Commander Tano. But anytime we bring that up, oh boy, the pitchforks start coming out. So I think it's safe to say for now, amazing character for this year. One of the best conquest characters this year, one of the best conquest characters of all time. You're going to love him. You're going to find a lot of uses for the guy. Very important. Great defense, offensive capabilities all around the board. Marauder, another oddball, huh? You can kind of say these two kind of feel a little out of place. We have a lot of Leia stuff. We have a lot of Cal stuff. Got a lot of Sith stuff. But then Marauder and Trench, a little bit out there. Wouldn't you say? Of course, I'm not going to say pass on this guy. This is straight up amazing. Marauder, we're throwing in the amazing category. It's sort of like the TIE Defender for the Galactic Republic. Day one, I was showing the Marauder beat Profundity, beat Executor. And it also, I wouldn't sell it as 100% consistent, like I said when I reviewed it. 100% consistent against Leviathan is the one-shot counter, but I have beaten a Leviathan many times in a one-shot scenario. The only time I'll lose is if I get stuck behind the Mark 6 Interceptor and I can't get through all the swarms. Fantastic addition to Galactic Republic, a must-have ship. I'm curious to see what 2024 is going to bring. It's a really good ship. It's nice having the Empire fleet have so much flexibility and the Galactic Republic fleet. I've actually had reports of people losing to Negotiator with things like their Executor, with things like their Leviathan. So keep that in mind. Pretty nuts. And then we get to our final stretch of 2023, where we're going up into the Mandalorian Season 3 stuff. Starting off with Paz Vizsla. Paz Vizsla, I love the guy. He's a lot of fun. He's really just an okay character. You know, in the grand scheme of things, he's very good at Bo-Katan Mandalore. I relic 9'd him right away. He's a very durable character. I loved his true damage. And as you see, Bo-Katan, he's an absolutely necessary component. I don't think he's as good as like some of the other stuff this year. He's still like he's okay good. Does that make sense? Like somewhere between the okay, the good categories with him. He's gonna be so important. I was using him so much in Territorials even before Bo-Katan came out. IG-12 and Grogu. I feel like I was more impressed with Paz Vizsla than I was IG-12 and Grogu. Obviously, with the introduction of Bo-Katan Mandalore, IG-12 and Grogu is going to be such a more important part to the game. Like the extra speed and all that stuff is going to be fantastic for him. But he's got buff dispels, he's got dazes, cleanses, heals. Very important component to the Bo-Katan Mandalore team. But I don't think you're going to use him too much before Bo. So I'm going to throw him in the okay category. Kelleran Beck. Oh my, oh my, oh my. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative with my review on him because we haven't had a 5v5 Grand Arena experience of him yet. But in Squad Arena and Territories, it gives you that Qui-Gon Jinn Grand Arena experience outside of Grand Arena. We see crazy amounts of damage for Jedi Knight Anakin, Ki-Adi-Mundi. I wish he was just not stepping on Qui-Gon's toes. I wish he could have made amazing, like another Qui-Gon level team in Grand Arena. He kind of eats into Qui-Gon's team. But for now, I'm going to put him in the good category just because we haven't had enough time. And I still can't tell you who's better in Grand Arena, Qui-Gon or Kelleran Beck. We only had a 3v3 Grand Arena, and it feels like he needs a full team of 5 to get the full picture. So let's put him in the good category, but I feel pretty confident he's not going to be in the running for who's the better character of 2023, Zori or Captain Rex. But let's wait. 2024, we have a 5v5 coming soon. We'll have to wait and see. And I loved how we timed the end of the year. We have Dark Trooper Moff Gideon and Bo-Katan Mandalore. Wrapping us up here. Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, our last Conquest character of the year. I can safely say this. I like him much more than Trench, bringing the Imperial Remnants into some pretty solid viability. And I also think he's going to be more useful than Trench, even in Territory Wars. But I'm finding uses for him even inside a Grand Arena. It's another nice option for your Stormtrooper, you know, your Scout Trooper to be put together on this nice Imperial Remnant team. I don't think he's anywhere like a Malicos, though. But I will say this. In Territory Wars, I have top guild leaders swearing they think Dark Trooper Moff Gideon might be the best offensive conquest character of all time. I don't know if I can quite agree with it yet. My biggest complaint with Dark Trooper Moff Gideon is, one, we have a Datacron right now, which is really skewing his viability. It's really hard to see what he's going to do in Territories without the Datacrons. It's my number one problem. Number two problem, I wish he had something to stop Courage from Padme, because we're seeing he's not going to be great on defense in Grand Arena Territory. Stupid Padme cheese gets through him. It's too bad he doesn't have an anti-insta-kill or maybe an anti-max health damage effect, so stopping Courage, Plague. I think he's just going to be good. Is he amazing? You know, we'll have to wait and see. It's hard to say. But one more thing that's really going to be hard to say is going to be Bo-Katan Mandalore. Right now, I'm just going to throw it out here. Even though we've had 0 Grand Arena experience, just based off of the Squad Arena experience, I feel like she's got to be somewhere in the amazing category. Now, we haven't had a single Grand Arena yet, so it's more speculation, but just based off Squad Arena gameplay, she's dunking on Lord Beater, and we see there's a possibility that she should be able to beat Jedi Master Kenobi, maybe even Jabba. But even aside from that, before the Omicrons and Grand Arena testing, she's beating basically all the non-Galactic Legend level team. For an epic confrontation character reintroducing that event since 2019, it's been a minute. I think she's gonna live up to the expectations. I'm using her in Terror Spell. She's very good in there. Territory, she seems like she's gonna find some uses. And Grand Arena, I want to believe once the Omicrons are turned on, she will be amazing. But I'm just leaving an asterisk. It could change once we get in there. She might just be good. But I have a feeling, just based off initial reactions of Squad Arena gameplay and some other testing I've done, she seems like she should be amazing. A great addition for the Mandalorians. Loving the team. I got one more bonus category for you guys before we wrap up. I have here a bonus category for favorite character and ship. Only one character I could pick. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean these are the best characters. Obviously, if I had to pick the best character, Leia would be the best character of the year. But for me personally, I'm looking at a character that's great, that's a lot of fun. I'm always having a good time. I'm always using him. For me, I feel like Jedi and Cal Kestis is my favorite character of 2023. I'm using him in every single game with Grand Arena, Territories, the Territories. I guess no raids, but raids are just, they're so cyclical, so seasonal. It's hard to really, bring that into analysis. He ended the Darth Malgus reign. He's so useful in a variety of other big level counters for Jedi Master Luke, Jedi Knight Revan. I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with him. Might not be the best defensive character, but again, he reminds me, especially in Territories, reminds me of the good old days of Galaxies. You just put a bunch of random stuff together, you kick butt with. He really brings that back. I love. It kind of feels like it's hard to explain. A star killer for the Jedi. Is that maybe a good way of putting it? Maybe. But ships is a lot easier. I feel like the best ship of 2023 has got to be Defender. Marauder was a close one. The reason why I didn't pick Marauder over Defender, mainly just because Marauder, we didn't have as much mileage with him. I've been using the Defender since basically the beginning of the year, beating all the top level fleets. I would say with more time, and especially going to 2024, maybe something interesting will happen. Maybe the Marauder is going to be the better overall unit. I'm going to put this up. Let me just throw Marauder up here. Let me put it this way. A lot of the things Defender is good for, you need the Interceptor, which is a conquest ship. Marauder, you don't need any conquest ship. Literally plug it into your negotiator lineup. You're kicking butt. So, you can maybe argue Marauder is the better ship of the year. Again, my favorite ship is Defender. And then literally a close second was going to be Marauder. That's going to wrap it up for the 2023 year. That's how we're going to do it. Let me put it this way. If you go back to our list that we made for 2022, look at this. There were a lot less passes this year, a lot less reluctant farms this year, and a lot of the stuff that was just mediocre, such as the Inquisitors, turned out to be so much better with the introduction of Reva. So I really think this year they hit a home run with all of these characters for the most part. I mean, you could argue that maybe even Trench isn't a passable character. I'm gonna hold firm on that one for now. But overall, I really enjoyed the year, just like I enjoyed all the time that we spend together. Again, thank you so much. Whether it's a minute, an hour, multiple days you hung out with me, time is our most valuable asset. And the fact that you spent some of it with me this year really means a lot. And I hope to continue to provide some fun as we get into 2024. Best of luck in 2024. I'll talk to you guys next year. And always remember, whatever your goals, dreams, aspirations might be, just know you have a home here. And you can always say how it's great to be in the Empire today. Great to be in the Empire today. The sun never sets.